Evan Wren, and this is the Big Country Preps Wednesday Night Podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we've got a special guest. We've got Comanche head football coach Jake Escobar.
Yeah, Coach Escobar led one of the biggest turnarounds in recent memory last year, taking Comanche to a 10-win season in the second year. This year they've hit a little bit of a roadblock, but they're 4-4 and have a chance down the stretch to close out the season strong and get back to the playoffs. So it's going to be fun talking to Coach Escobar about just the challenge of this season. This season's been a much more of a challenge than last season was in a lot of ways when you look at injuries and just in terms of trying to navigate a brutal schedule. So I'm just excited to talk to him about kind of the journey this team's been on and kind of what he thinks it's capable of accomplishing down the stretch.
All right, before we get going with this week's show, we need to thank a couple of our sponsors. We'll start with For Love of the Game Broadcasting and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Brecken, KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is For the Love of the Game Broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear, Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give Rob a shout. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Call him at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham up at Bear, Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. Before we start, we want to remind you YouTubers to please hit the subscribe button. And then after that, hit that little bell that pops up so you'll get notices every time that we have a new podcast here at Big Country Prep. So just go ahead and hit that subscribe button, won't you please? We appreciate it.
All right, with that, let's go ahead and jump in. Let's talk a little bit about last week. First, you were at a couple of interesting games, starting with our Big Country Preps game of the week. Stephenville looked very, very impressive in a big win against China Spring. Just talk about kind of what were your biggest takeaways from that one.
China Spring had come into that ball game, racking up a lot of points and a lot of yards and mostly on the ground, just beating people up. And they got a taste of their own medicine that night. I mean, just Stephenville just ran over the top of them and pounded the football and out-physicaled a physical team. It was an impressive showing by the Yellow Jackets, in my estimation. Tate Maruska had 125 yards rushing, and that's where it started. It was at the line of scrimmage. They won the war up front and just outplayed them. And that was a top 10 football team that they beat, and really just demonstrates that, Stephenville is every bit as good as a lot of people expected them to be. They're a different style of football team this year. They're more of a straight ahead, hit you in the face type team. This is not a finesse football team. This is a powerful run first football team, my kind of team.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that Stephenville, a lot of times there's a misconception that is a finesse football team, but I think they answered in any questions they had in that regard. They answered in that win over China Spring. If you can play and dominate that team physically, you're doing a pretty good job. Obviously, along those lines, physical domination. You saw it. Albany pulls away from Roscoe for a big win in your second area game last week. Just did that one go about how you expected it to?
Maybe score wise, it did. I thought that by night's end, Albany would have quite a bit of separation and win the game handily, but they're going to do that to most Class 2A D2 teams, no matter how good they are. What surprised me was the physicality of Roscoe going toe to toe with Albany in the trenches for a full half and really enforced a bunch of turnovers and put a scare into the Lions. It was 10-7. The break, and we're talking about an Albany team was favored by well over 30 points going in, the top ranked team in the state. And Roscoe came in, you could tell by their body language that they came in with nothing to lose. They were going to hit these guys in the face as hard as they could and go at them. They came to play. Now Albany got things straightened out in the second half. They corrected the turnovers, they started moving the football, and I'm not sure that Roscoe was prepared for a second half. I think they were really happy with how they played in the first half, and even kind of frame it from Roscoe. I was like, man, I wish we didn't have this halftime. He was telling his staff they just want to go right back out because it's tough to re-energize a big underdog team like that after a great half and let them know, look, we got another half. And in the meantime, Albany is getting fired up in the the locker room. They're not happy with how they played in the first half. So it's like polar opposites, and they came out, and Albany just completely took the game over. Um, I didn't expect the game to pan out that way. I thought it was going to be Albany pretty much all night having an edge, but it really wasn't that way. It was Albany dominating the second half. Second half was completely different. Albany had over 500 yards in total offense, but the turnovers really were created in that first half. He had five. There were five turnovers by Albany in the first for the night. You never see that out of an Albany team. Five turnovers, you never see it. And it was Albany. It was Roscoe's physicality that kind of created a lot of those. So the game did not kind of it didn't pan out the way I was expecting. It was a bit of a surprise. Actually, Roscoe was. I mean, they were impressive. They came to play. I was impressed.
When I saw them against Junction, I was impressed. It wasn't their best game offensively, but I was impressed with what you just mentioned. On the defensive side, they bottled up a really good Junction running game, and I thought maybe they'd have a chance to do that against Albany. It sounds like they did for a half. Unfortunately, the kind of dam broke for them. But I think this, as wild as it sounds when you got a score like that one was, 44-7 or whatever it was, it's kind of interesting. As weird as it sounds, I think both teams probably got better from that one. Both teams can really take a lot from that one going forward, and I think this will be one that probably helps both teams as they go to the playoffs, because I think these are both teams with an opportunity to do some damage. Obviously, Albany, they're the defending state champions and have a chance to do it again, but I think this will be a good game for Roscoe as well, to see that when we play at our best, we're playing right with New Home on the road. We're playing right with Albany on the road for a half. I think those are things they can build on. As far as me, I was at another game that was this would be a good lead in, a team that really has made great progress and great strides over the course of the season. That's the Cooper Cougars. They went and really dominated a good Plainview team for their second district win in a row. After giving up the first 7 points, going to the second quarter down 7-0, they score 31 unanswered points and finish up that game 31-14. And I think that Cooper this year is just a really good example of why patience is a virtue. This is a team that was very young coming in, struggled pretty mightily during non-district schedule and sort of during the early part of their district schedule. But they've finally starting to put some things together, kind of getting out of their own way. That was kind of their problem early, is a lot of times they were just making game-changing, game-breaking mistakes that would take them out of games they would have otherwise been in. And they've eliminated a lot of that stuff. So it's going to be fun to see how they finish the season. They've got a game this week against Lubbock High, which they should win handily, to set up a really big matchup against Wiley at Shotwell Stadium the last week of the regular season. So the local scene's playing out as we expected. There's going to be a lot of good football played by those Abilene teams down the stretch.
All right. Where will this week see you land? Where are you going?
I'll be out at Shotwell again for Abilene High's final regular season game. They're going to be hosting a scrappy Amarillo High team with an opportunity to close out an undefeated district stretch. They got a chance to claim the outright district championship out of 2-5A Division I. And Abilene High has just been playing great football really all season long, but especially since district started. They're just blowing the doors off a lot of people. They got tested a couple weeks ago against Lubbock Cooper and came out of that one with a really dramatic, impressive win. This, I think, will be their second biggest test of that district schedule. So it's going to be fun to see if they can finish the district schedule out, get that win. They got a really nice situation, and they get their open date the final week of the regular season, so they can get a full 2 weeks to prepare for the playoffs. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. I expect Abilene High to play well. I expect Abilene High to win, but I think this will be a good test for them as they get ready for the playoffs. All right, how about you? Where are you headed this week?
The Big Country Preps game of the week, at least on paper, is going to be Stanford at Holly. But right now, our taping of this is occurring on Wednesday. So we got a storm rolling in, this big storm, and we all know about Holly's football field. When it rains, it really doesn't drain that well. So I'm expecting that game to be moved, but it will be Stanford versus Holly. As Holly will be the home team no matter where it ends up. Right now, as of this taping, it's supposed to be at Holly. We shall see. It's not been the history of that field to hold up while under heavy rain. And we're supposed to have that on Thursday, so we shall see where it ends up. But this should be a great matchup. A couple of explosive offenses, good solid defenses. It's going to be Holly's. Well, Holly's got its share of speed as well, but Stanford's speed is. That's something that nobody has contained yet. So we shall see if the defending state champs can contend with it. It's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, I'm excited this one. It won't necessarily be the case for Holly, who's played Holly, who's played Albany, but for Stanford, I think they're going to be the biggest test they've had of this season. We're going to see how they answer it. They've obviously been very, very good against the schedule they've played. This to me on paper looks like it's going to be a great matchup. It should be a really fun Big Country Preps game of the week.
Yes, it should be. And with that, it's just about time to bring in Coach Escobar. You about ready?
Yep, looks like he's ready. Let's go ahead and get him on.
And joining us now, Comanche head football coach Jake Escobar. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
We appreciate you guys having me on.
All right, Coach. Your team is still fighting for its playoff life. Let's talk about the keys down the stretch for your ball club to secure a playoff spot.
Well, we're going to play a couple tough teams, coming up. We have Merkel tomorrow night, which they're scrappy. They've come a long ways. Coach Cates has done a great job there. So, I think the key thing for us is just to be consistent, eliminate penalties and, just take care of the little things. Right now, I feel like we're just now getting healthy again. Sawyer, he's still not 100%, but like this week, he's just ran a little bit different than he has in the weeks past. So, I think that is always one of the big keys for us. We always talk about it, and last year it never happened. So we didn't have that kind of experience where everybody was healthy. And this year it seems like we've hit the injury bug. Kyler Beatty's had like a little hamstring pull that it's kind of off and on, so he didn't play at all. He played a little bit last week, but not much. And, we tried to rest him, but he's still kind of, trying to get that going. So, I think those are the keys right now. And I think when you miss those pieces, you kind of lose a little chemistry. And I think that's what we're trying to get back right now is that chemistry. So I hopefully that kind of helps us, now that they're back and, maybe that chemistry will start clicking again.
And Coach, you look at that 4-game losing streak, and you look at who it comes against: Toller, Albany, Jacksboro, Millsaps. Just a brutal stretch of schedule there, particularly if you're not healthy. Just
yes,
how tough was it to go through that stretch of teams at that time?
I tell you, I caused a lot of sleepless nights, man. Toller, they do a great job over there. They have for the last few years. And Coach Mullins, those guys are going to be tough. And they're going to compete, and that was pretty tough because I think it was a wake up call for us. I don't know if we felt like we were really good at that time. We were 3-0, and beat teams convincingly. And Stoller kind of woke us up a little bit and made us realize we had to get back to work. So that was a great game to be a part of in that sense. But you still want to win those games, and it was tough, without Sawyer during that time. But I think a lot of kids grew up during that time, which just helped us get to this point where we're at now. And all those teams, Albany, they're just a great football team. And it was a great test. And then, Millsap, I don't know if people have underestimated Millsap, but, I talked to Coach Johnson probably on a weekly basis. And
we underestimated him.
Yeah. And he does a great job, man. I mean, I'm telling you, he does a great job with his kids. And they were scrappy, and I'll tell you, they're good up front. That's where the key is. They're good up front. And that number 8, he's really a good little running back, and he gets in the quarterback a little bit and does a great job. And so, I think them and Jacksboro, they're very explosive, and we were really worried about that. And and I thought our kids did a great job of containing them and giving us a chance to win. Our defense did a great job that night, and we just didn't make the plays at the end, and kind of trying to get back in the groove of things. I was trying to get back in the play calling. I haven't called the plays the first 5 games, so I was trying to get back in the groove of it. And I didn't do a very good job at that point, but those guys do a great job. And if you're not at your best, they're going to beat you. And they did.
Coach, you snapped the losing streak, beating Dublin. Tell us about how refreshing that is, just to regain, just to get a breath of fresh air and recapture some momentum.
Oh man, we laughed about it in the coach's office. Like, that felt so good. It really did, because last year when you go 10-2, we lost to Toller week 4, and then we didn't lose till week 11 or 12, whatever week it was, and so it was kind of hard for us to kind of accept that 4-game losing streak. Felt like you were just kind of in a rut there, and it felt really good. It was great for our community and our kids. Really, I felt like it gave our kids some confidence back, and it was much needed. There's no doubt about it.
And Coach, you mentioned the last 2 games, Merkel and Eastland, and all those 2 teams, along with y'all, are all in the exact same situation, same district record going down the stretch, with obviously big games coming up. Just talk about kind of the mindset. I mean, I think you've got 3 teams that are fighting for their lives there. Should be 3 good games.
Yes, sir. After Jacksboro, you're kind of searching. I mean, as a coach, you're kind of searching. And like I tell our kids, I'm not one to ever point fingers. So I always try to figure out, what am I not doing right? What am I not doing what I've done last year? What are things that we can do to help our program and help our kids get that win or improve? And I feel like every week we've talked about who we were going to play. So I finally told our kids after Jacksboro, we need to quit worrying about who we're going to play and worry about the Comanche Indians. We need to worry about getting better every day. And, if we worry about that, then whatever happens on Friday night, it happens. I mean, we can't control a lot of things, and all we can control is our effort and the way we play the game. And that's what I wanted them to get out of that, and so that's been our mindset. And, of course, as a coach, you look down the road, that's just natural, but I really try to focus on Merkel, because Merkel they're really a good football team. And they have some weapons, and so and I don't know if you've seen, I'm sure you've seen them play, but they got those big kids. I mean, they're not small by any means. So they're a lot bigger than us. So, I've focused on them, and like I told our coaches, we'll tackle Eastland when that Merkel game is done, because it really doesn't matter what happens if we don't win tomorrow night.
And you had mentioned maybe that Millsap was a team that was underestimated. I think this district in general was one that probably some people underestimated. Several teams in this district. We saw, I guess it was 2 years ago, where it was so hyper competitive.
Yes,
and this year's kind of the same thing. Just every team in it is competitive. It's a battle every week. What's it like to be a part of that?
It's really exciting. It's fun because everybody's going to give you their best on every Friday night. So every game's going to be close, and it's great for the football fan. It really is. It's great for the football fan. Anybody that wants to watch a great football game, because you're going to play against teams that are well coached. And you're going to play kids that play hard. And it doesn't matter whether they've won 1 or 2 games, they're going to give it everything they have. And to me, that just makes it exciting every Friday night. And I think our kids practice that way because they know that they're going to play someone on Friday night that's going to be prepared, number one. And if you can, and when you play teams that are prepared, it's really tough to beat them.
All right, Coach, can you talk about the your injury situation that you went through? You're a guy that likes to pound the football and be physical, and you got hurt by multiple injuries there, especially to Wilkerson, your star running back, hurting his ankle. Just tell us about how what your approach was to get through it. And it wasn't easy.
I think number one is you try to keep the same mentality within your program and the kids, and we always like to say next man up. But it's kind of hard to say that whenever you have that young man that's a special athlete like Sawyer Wilkerson. But I think our kids really did a great job of coming together. And one thing they did is they competed. And when we went to Millsap, I felt like our kids underestimated them. I really did. I really felt like we weren't at our best on that night, and they were at their best. And I think we've kind of fell into the trap of, after we played Albany, we played them really well, and we were in the ball game the whole time until the very end. And I think our kids kind of felt like they were really playing at a high motor, and we were real physical, because you have to be real physical, because Albany's going to run the ISO right at you 30 times a game. They're going to send Hill right at you, or that number 4, the kid that transferred in, and they're not, they're coming right at you. So I felt like we really stepped up, and our linebackers, who we didn't know if they could handle that or not at that time, showed us that they could. And so what we had to do is I had to move Layden Welch, our quarterback, over back to defense to play linebacker. So because we had a couple injuries to one of our linebackers, so which really changed the mindset of our kids. It's unbelievable what a young man can do whenever he goes over to the defensive side, because he's a tough kid, how it changes that mentality. And it was tough going through that stretch. I'm not going to lie. It was tough, but I really thought our kids handled it really well. I think he was obviously Sawyer's a difference maker, because he can break it, from the own 20-yard line. He can, and it was tough because we were having to manufacture every score. It was going to take us about 8 plays or 10 plays, and we had to be great at our play calling and things like that, and put our kids in great situations. So it was a tough stretch. It really was. But I think our kids grew from it. And, our little sophomore running back, the backup, Coach Swartner, I thought he did a great job of stepping in. And he's just a sophomore, and he's not fully developed yet. And he's taking some pounding. and that's tough on a young man. And then our other running back who started for us last year a little bit was Sawyer. He got hurt in the second scrimmage or in our inter squad scrimmage. He clavicle, so he just now came back last week. So we really had to play Colt, who was a JV player last year, and and with an inexperienced line, it was kind of tough for him. But I think our kids really got better as we progressed, in the last couple of games.
And Coach, obviously, y'all were one of the big surprises in the area last year. Just a phenomenal season. When you do kind of go through a little bit of adversity, like y'all did during that losing streak, just what is the kids' I guess mental state, emotional state now that y'all did get that win? Just what is it kind of going forward?
Well, I think we're in a better place right now, and I told the kids this after the Jacksboro game. I felt really good about where we were at. Jacksboro's a good football team. I think our kids played well. We had a chance to tie it up, and we had to go for two, but I was really pleased with how they played. And that's what I want. I just want them to play hard. That's all I wanted them to do. And the winning part, it's going to happen. But and so after the Millsap game, I struggled a little bit. I really did. I struggled for myself. I did a lot of soul searching during that time. And as I mentioned earlier about what have I not done? And so I did a lot of side, and I was really worried at that point. Are we going to get our kids back? And after the Jacksboro game, they proved to me that they were still in. And so I think it's gradually gotten better ever since that Millsap game. So I'm really pleased where we're at right now. And I've kind of changed the way I practice. I got complacent too. I mean, I think it's partly my fault as well. I think just like kids, we get complacent sometime, and our practices weren't like they were. A little more physical during the week, and so we went back to it and now we're physical Monday and Tuesday, just trying to make sure we have that mindset.
All right, Coach, I know you guys went through a rough stretch, but do your kids realize that most of the important goals, the most important goals that you set prior to the season are all still possible?
Yes, sir. They do, and that's one thing. After the last two games, we've sat down and we watched film on Saturdays, and we've kind of talked to the kids about that. And I think they're smart enough to understand that anything's possible. We just got to get into the dance. You get into the dance, and anything can happen, because I think we're in a tough district, and the district's definitely going to make us better for the playoffs. So number one thing is just getting in, and then from there, whatever happens. But I think our mindset is in the right spot right now. 3 weeks ago, probably not, but now I think we're moving in the right direction. So I'm fired up, because I know our kids are ready, and you can see it. Practices have totally changed. Their intensity level has changed. So, sometimes you need a little failure to kind of give you a little boost, and that's what's happened here. So I'm excited, and I think our kids are going to step up to the challenge.
Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. We'll be keeping a close eye on the Comanche Indians as always. Best of luck to you, sir.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for everything y'all do, man.
And that was Comanche head football coach Jake Escobar. And that was, the stretch that they went through, losing 4 straight. After a 3-0 start. Now, we all knew that stretch they were going into, with Toller and Albany and the like. We knew it was going to be difficult, but I don't think anybody really imagined them, dipping through that, winless. But the injury bug did hit them, really hurt them. And, if they can get back to 100% for the playoffs, I'll tell you what, that's a 2 or a 3 or whatever seed they land in that I don't want to deal with.
No.
That's a team that, you might look at their record and think, but when they're 100%, we know what that team's capable of. And that's going to be a team that's you don't want to face. I don't want to face Comanche in the playoffs. No. I don't want any part of them.
And anyone looking at that record and taking too much from it's probably wasting their time anyway, because you talk about that group of 4 teams: Toller, Albany, Millsap, Jacksboro, a combined 3 losses among them. So you're talking about some very good football being played there. And honestly, outside of the Toller game, which got away from them, the others were relatively competitive. They played with those others, and which I think tells you what kind of team they got. But I thought it was cool talking to Coach Escobar, because we got to talk to him last year during that dream season they had. I thought it was cool to kind of get his perspective this season, where they have faced a little bit of adversity, and kind of his approach to it, and his kind of guiding his team through that. I thought that was kind of a neat conversation, kind of in real time. And Honestly, I expect this team to rebound well, to finish strong, and to make a playoff run. I think this team has that ability, so it's going to be fun to see if they're able to accomplish that. But in any event, it was a lot of fun to get Coach Escobar on here, and I really enjoyed having that conversation with him.
All right, with that, it's about time to wrap up the Big Country Preps Wednesday Night Podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we got 3 separate subscription packages here at Big Country Preps. We got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we've got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock that price down to $3 a month. That's $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
And we'd also like to remind you that if you ever see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. We have photo downloads available for $7, as well as some keepsakes and prints. So as you're scrolling through the site, make sure you check that out. You'll notice pretty quickly we take a lot of photos from these games we attend, and that we attend a whole lot of games. That's something that we really enjoy doing and something we are very proud of here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.